We back at it again. Y'all know it. Call me Gemini, man, when you see my pic. Everybody little kids that'll freeze that trip. I'ma put them on last when they see that list. So it's been a little different, you can tell that bitch. Everybody got problems, turn up my volume. 6'3", baby, they gon' fuck up your doctrine. Fuck the regulation, ain't nobody gon' stop them. Throw them all out, start me over like Jonathan. Go! Everybody buzzing on a new feed. Knock a motherfuckers on a new league. Every other trends in a new leaks. Put it on ice, swing on my hype. Fuck up your life like you working at Vice. Shipping my brain while I'm moving those mics. If you about to hit a bone, better cancel that flight like whoa. That's too woke from the body with a memory and a brain like stroke. Cause the X-Men, baby, you a goddamn joke. Top roll, make a profit and you still go pro. Oh Jesus, maybe you should drop a movie. All these bitches get a bag with a plot to sue me. Everybody get attacked by the guy producing. Better get a new apartment if you want the groupies. Also choosy, tell me if you want the cookies. Tryna shake a man hand like you fucking knew me. Billy see a TikToker, what the fuck they doing? I'm a 98%, hope the popcorn juicy. Yikes. All that work and what did it get me? All that coverage, no AT&T. All those Russian friends and no impeach. A cover up plot from dipshits like Jesse. How the fuck you even gonna swear it on the Bible? An IVF ban to signal you pro-life to. Bully non-binary kids in their own high school. So try to get a couple new followers she can write to. So someone get hurt. I've been watching your work. I've been playing that piano like I'm up in rebirth. Democracy on the line like a hell diver. Game of Thrones, Avatar, shit don't work like Gemini, man, when you see my pic. Everybody little kids so the loans get skipped. She gon' put them on blast when she see that list. Tryna act all tough, listen, fuck that bitch. Everybody got problems, turn up my volume. Millionaire fighting, hope the cup gon' call you. Everybody out here tryna be another star. When the Ruby in court and the jury like bars. Woo! Too soon. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me right now. Does this make you happy? You happy now? Okay, look around us. Look at the text on my shirt. You can read that, right? It's in the correct direction. You're welcome, America. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please try dunking on another like button until that like button grabs you, and then your like button swing at the other like button's team, and then all of a sudden it gets into this giant physical altercation, and then Jimmy Butler gets thrown out of the game. And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. Man, it's been a crazy, exhausting week. We have a lot to talk about. Real quickly before we get into it, just a little bit of housekeeping. The beat that you got to hear today, which is actually pretty fucking fire, was made using Soundraw. I tailored it, added a little bit of finesse to it. But thank you so much for Soundraw for sponsoring this episode. Also, next week, March 2nd on Sunday, we're not gonna have a Freestyle the News episode that day. I know. I'm still gonna try to get out of Zed Talks next week. Next week, we're also gonna debut Too Soon. It's gonna let me cover a lot of stories that I'm not gonna get to cover on this episode. And lastly, if you didn't know, this is actually an anniversary. What? Back in 2016, I launched an album called Los Angeles. It was like the first album I made after I'd learned a ton of stuff from Berkeley and after I went viral on Reddit for ethering a guy. I'm gonna tell that story at some point, but hey, if you wanna hear how I sounded back then, and I really am proud of that project, go listen to Los Angeles on Spotify. All right, let's just jump into this breakdown. And I have to say, this was a pretty exhausting week. A lot of news coming from all angles, a lot of culture war news, a lot of policies that are scary and frustrating, a lot of tragedies. It was a lot to take in. And listen, first off, I know a lot of this is exhausting. It's an election year and it's going to be more exhausting because a lot of news people are just like, oh, we have to report the important news, and the important news is the news that makes everybody feel terrible. So you're seeing an overemphasis of that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be frustrated or angry at it. Absolutely. You feel what you feel. Like, I feel frustrated and angry, but also don't feel bad if you just take some time for yourself and take care of yourself. That's a hugely important thing throughout all of this. So just before we start, remember to take care of yourself and treat yourself a little bit, just so you have the energy to be informed, be aware, and try to be active about how to fix things. All right, let's start with Google Gemini. If you don't know, Google launched its AI bot Gemini over the week. Its formal competitor to ChatGPT and Grok and every other fucking chat-based text AI bot that you can see on the planet. But there was a lot of controversy this specific bot generated. And it started with Google Gemini's image generator. You know, it's kind of like one of those text to image generators that you'll find on Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or any other thing that can't form fingers or makes people look like they were like wrapped in plastic. But here's the thing, when people started to enter in certain prompts into Gemini, they started to get very curious results, specifically very diverse results. Now, while there's been a lot of talk about AI models not being trained on diverse enough subsects, this was a little bit different. For example, typing in a picture of the founding fathers and then getting the founding fathers who were white, but also Black and Native American and Asian. Well, okay, that's just Hamilton. But what if you typed in something about World War II and got an image of Black Nazis? Do you see where I'm going with this? Here's what happened. Essentially, Google was trying to correct the problem, which was a huge discussion a few months ago. We'll get back to that in a minute. And while they were tuning Imagen 2, which is what's implemented into Gemini to generate those images, they were like, let's get ahead of this problem and make sure that it generates more than one ethnicity when it makes images. And obviously, that makes things a little tough. It makes you get things like a Black George Washington. While the intention is overall like, hey, I want to try to make sure that everybody's represented, it's kind of being wildly shot at everywhere. Now listen, when you hear this story, do you think, hey, Google's trying to be super diverse and shit, and they just kind of overcorrected the problem and fucked up? Or do you think Google has an anti-white agenda and is using its platform to brainwash our children with DEI and CRT? Immediately, there was an insane amount of backlash. While researching the story, if I type in on X, Gemini, hundreds of threads of people who look like they cloned Jack Probashek in a lab and just fuck with the body character slider, all going, here's an example of Google just hating on white people. Oh, Google wants to exclude white people from their platform. Google is a company that is filled with anti-white bias, and it extends even to Google search. First, they came for the weird AI-generated images with really high gloss, bad fingers, and random gauges in words and letters that were stolen from hundreds of other artists who didn't consent to their images being used as training. And I said nothing. Okay, right off the bat, I shouldn't have to tell you, diversity doesn't mean anti-white. Pro-everybody doesn't mean anti-you. If we say everybody can go to the mall, it doesn't mean, Jonathan, you can't go to the mall. This is clearly the culture war losing their shit over something and making it into something that it's not. It's not anti-white bias. It's Google fucking up. And by the way, that's the other part of this. Google did fuck up. This is an overcorrection and not how you should try to implement diversity. Listen, diversity doesn't mean shoehorn people into places to just make it more diverse so you check off a box, but it does mean that when you do that kind of a thing, it needs to be done with intention, it needs to be done with purpose, and it needs to be done to include people. It's super insulting when you just check off a box. That's called tokenizing people. And this is kind of tokenizing people. There's no reason, like, they're asking for a historical image. Again, it's not intentional. It's a basic coding error that has extrapolated because AI is now trying to take over everything in life. But here's the thing, I can't necessarily entirely blame them for panicking like this. A little bit I can, because I know the grifters there. But here's the thing, that chatbot did have a lot of issues. When asked to generate a list of 5 black actors, it did. When asked to generate a list of 5 white actors, it didn't. When also asked to give a reason of why to have 4 children, it wouldn't engage with the question, but when asked to have no children, it would give you multiple reasons why that was a good thing. And I think the right, like, losing its shit over this when they would be parading in the streets of Gemini when, you know, Joe Biden is a bitch. It's kind of stupid. It's a programming error. It's very obvious. Like, it's a pretty clear description of why it would do that. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you agree or you disagree with Google's implementation here, well, I applaud the attempt to make sure that, hey, we're seeing more than one perspective here. I think it should have been handled more carefully. Also, Elon Musk, a senior executive at Google, called and spoke to me for an hour last night. He assured me that they are taking immediate action to fix the racial and gender bias in Gemini. Time will tell. Yes, Elon, time will tell. How's X doing? And now let's move on to Kevin Durant. Oh man, I got a clip for you. So if you don't know who Kevin Durant is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He was incredible on the Golden State Warriors. He's currently on the Phoenix Suns. He's a power forward. You don't have to know what that is. He's just really, really fucking good at basketball. Also, he has the temper, but that's not really the important thing right now. What the fuck is this? So yeah, Durant is just running during practice and a Dallas Mavericks fan calls him a bitch from the seats. Durant clearly upset. It's fucking audible. He's just trying to do runs and drills, turns around, and this lady's just like, you want to, come on, man. Yeah, I just called you a bitch. We're friends now, right? This is the practice many pickup artists call negging. If you need any further proof, Pickup artists are bad at their job. How fucking insulting is it that she just has her hand out like, come on, I'm trying to make good on it. I'm doing the right thing here. It's the most cringe I could possibly hold in a clip. Oh my God, and it gets worse.
I hope the podcast. Snake, are you okay? Snake?
And Durant is gone. Durant immediately bails. Listen, I know my wife or girlfriend called you a bitch, but listen, I have a podcast. And Kevin's like, oh my fucking, oh no, you know what? You know what? For a minute, I thought you didn't understand. We're like brothers now. Just absolute like clown fucking behavior. Oh, come on, man. Don't you, come on. What, you gonna leave me hanging? So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. And let's move on to True Detective, because this situation is really, really messy. If you haven't heard, True Detective Night Country just ended its run with very, very high ratings and a lot of critical praise. Now, this was a huge season for True Detective. If you haven't seen True Detective, it's a gritty, really involved, interesting crime drama, mystery, noir, thriller, whatever you want to call it. The first season starred Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson and was heralded as an amazing achievement in television. It was created by author Nick Pizzolatto, and it set the internet and honestly the entire media world on fire. We'll get to seasons 2 and 3 in a minute, but True Detective Night Country was the newest entry in that series, and it was the first entry with a new director, Issa Lopez, and new writers. Nick was an executive producer, and guess what? The series was the most watched series out of all the True Detective series, period. Its ratings were high, and its reception was also very high. Although I will say that the season finale did have a little bit of a mixed reception. Overall, the series got a lot of high marks. Now here's the thing, someone should tell that to Nick, because he seems to be retweeting all of the shit talk he can find. That's right, Nick Pizzolatto, the original creator of True Detective, has been reposting shade after shade after shade on his Instagram story, on fucking Reddit, being like, hey, don't blame me, I didn't write this shit. So fucking sad. HBO could do this to a successful series of television, just really, really just undercutting shitty things. And listen, when something is stripped away from you, you have every right to feel disappointed with the outcome. Here's the thing though, when you're the executive producer on the new series, that's kind of a lot. Also, the entire series is meant to reflect well on you. There's a lot of issues here. One of them being that after that landmark season 1 moment that Nick had, season 2 was a disaster. Season 2 was widely panned by almost everybody who saw it. By the way, I liked season 2. But there were a lot of fucking problems. Even with its all-star cast, it couldn't keep up with its narrative and was considered sloppy and poorly written, or at least in comparison to season 1. And season 3, while again, way better writing, that was like the story of season 3. It's like, hey, it's not as bad as season 2. It didn't make nearly the same dent that the original season made. And that's kind of the problem. Nick just wasn't doing a good job, and multiple people at HBO were like, hey, this just isn't working out. So they took on Issa Lopez, and Issa did a really, really good job. But Nick was like, that's fucking bullshit, and started talking that shit everywhere. And I can understand to an extent if you're a creator and your baby is taken away from you. But honestly, if you are on a project with other people, if you're the executive producer, if their success means your success and they're succeeding, you don't want to sink the ship, because honestly, it's not just Issa on the line. There are hundreds of crew members who are on the line. That's a job for them. And Nick is just being a prick about it. And I would have had a little bit of sympathy if he wouldn't have responded in the most fucking childish way, saying, people are treating me like Hitler all of a sudden because I didn't like a show. Bitch, Nick, listen, no one is treating you like Hitler. And if you have to go, people are treating me like Hitler, when they're getting mad about comments you made about a TV show, my guy, I think we know who's overreacting here. Being like, I didn't like the interpretation, best of luck to her, is all you have to do. Tons of people fucking do it all the time. And whenever they don't, most of the time, they have better things than season 2 of True Detective on their resume. Yeah, let me know what you think about this whole situation. And FYI, Nick, Night Country was renewed for season 2, so I would get used to it. Okay, a couple more stories that I recorded earlier, but I'm going to add addendums to. The Alabama Supreme Court has ruled in a landmark 7-2 decision that frozen embryos are the same as unborn children. The wrongful death suit was brought forth by 3 families after the accidental destruction of their frozen embryos. The ruling, by the way, which is batshit, has Justice Tom Parker saying, when the people of Alabama adopted the sanctity of life provision in the state constitution, they did not use the term inviolability with its secular connotations, but rather they chose the term sanctity with all of its connotations. The Alabama Constitution's recognition that human life is an endowment from God, emphasizes the foundational principle of English common law, which has been expressly incorporated as part of the law of Alabama. You're fucking insane. This is an absurd lawsuit. There's one thing to be cruel and hypocritical, like the overturning of Roe or the act of restricting abortions to ectopic pregnancies. And there's another thing to be cruel and insane. This is stupid. This effectively ends IVF in Alabama. And honestly, right after I read this ruling, I went on Twitter to see how insane people were defending it so I could give you guys a balanced perspective. No one reasonable, including conservatives, are defending it. Almost all of them are silent on this ruling, except for one or two idiots over here. By the way, just because you were dropped on your head as a child doesn't mean you get to rule in favor of how all of them are born. The baseline of these few saying, what are you, listen, this is not, you're overreacting. IVF is not going to end right after the University of Alabama then halted all IVF procedures because they were worried about this law. And if you've never been through IVF, it is an exhausting process with lots of drugs and needles and just constant preparation. I have two friends who are going through that process right now. It is tough, especially because of their history of trying to get pregnant. And all I can think of is if they were in Alabama, how heartbreaking it would be if halfway through the process, these 7 fucking geniuses over here are like, oh, what the have to pat themselves on the back for being like, oh, look, we're so good. We're so good. And that's what these rulings come off as. Almost all of them have no like actual logical precedent. Almost all of them follow this idea of like, well, we have to be pro-life, and that means this is true, as if to congratulate themselves for being so morally sanctimonious, while at the same time effectively halting life, like effectively halting the conception of life. It is a case of sanctimony over principles. We've had an update since I recorded that. That's why I didn't put it on Zed Talks. Number one, it is actually indefensible. Multiple Republicans have come out being like, hey, this is bad and fucking stupid. Even Trump came out in support of IVF. Multiple people saying that, hey, this is a bad decision. You've actually made a really, really stupid mistake here that's going to hurt families trying to have children in the first place. But one of those Republicans wasn't Tommy Tuberville, because this motherfucker is dumb as a rock. And that's not slander. I'm going to read you his statement here. When asked about the ruling, he was like, yeah, I was all for it. You just got to look at everything going on in the country. It's just an attack on families, an attack on kids, you know? Anything we can do for the future of our young people because they're our number one commodity? Fucking Tommy. We need to have more kids. We need to have an opportunity to do that, and I thought this was the right thing to do. Oh, did you, Tommy? Because right after the NBC reporter said, hey, but that actually means that IVF clinics are going to shut down. 2 have already shut down in Alabama. Fucking genius Tommy over here is like, well, that's another conversation. I think the big thing right now is to protect. You go back to the situation, you try to work out what's best for everybody. That's what the whole abortion issue is about. You didn't read, did you, Tommy? You're walking into the test for To Kill a Mockingbird and you watched the beginning of the movie and read the spark notes, which don't even have the ending. They were incomplete. Fuck are you doing? Tommy Tuberville has so many bad opinions. This was bad and stupid, and I'm really glad he said it. I'm really glad, because everybody thinks he's stupid. Even Republican news outlets think he's stupid. I'm not lying. The New Republic said he's trying to win an award for it. Good, Tommy. We all know where you stand. But good news for people who are using IVF. I'm sorry it even had to happen in the first place. And anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today. I want to get into the Alexander Smirnoff thing, but I think I'll save that for too soon. Check out Let 'Em Cook. Check out last week's Freestyle the News. Anyway, my name is Tabani, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go!